Chapter 22-24. Rei and Conan arrived in Kirigakure. It was all shrouded in a thick mist on the outer parts, most likely due to seals. The closer to the village they got, the sparser the mist became. As Rei and Conan followed Karubo through the gates, giving their documents to the guards, they noted that no mist was inside the village. The air was very humid and the village looked militaristic. It was a dreary place with gloom in the air. Surprisingly, the merchants and civilians still bustled through the streets, happily trying to sell their wares. They didn't seem to fear shinobi. A healthy dose of respect could be spotted in their eyes every time a shinobi passed by. It was coexistence. The people here saw the shinobi as their protectors. Shinobi, on the other hand, were the reason for the gloomy atmosphere. They still attempted to look dangerous and stern-faced, but it was obvious their mood was down. The village probably lost in a skirmish, Rei surmised. None of his business though. The place was exactly as one would expect from a village full of killers. After all, Kiri took the most assassination request out of the Great Five. This was where hunter-nin and assassins thrived. Rei and Conan stood in the office of the Mizukage, looking at a neat, pale man of 40 years old with black hair, brown eyes, and a mustache. He wore the Mizukage robes and the hat and watched them impassively. This was the third Mizukage. Rei and Conan slightly bowed in respect but didn't leave each other's side. You say you need to be together. He trailed off as he out of the bat pointed his problem with them. He would call bullshit, but then again, he was a leader of the village and had to keep appearances. Mizukage-sama, Rei calmly smiled. All you need is to have a sensor-nin look at our chakra. Ah, yes. Mizukage drawled. Your chakra. He narrowed his eyes. The kids didn't have more than a civilian amount of chakra. Yet, his ninjas in the capital of Noodle were beaten by them. We will now loosen our chakra hiding, okay? Rei asked, making the Mizukage nod slowly. The Mizukage signaled the ANBU on standby and marveled as the chakra of the kids in front of him rose to the levels of low Chunin. He narrowed his eyes. You have more than this, right? Yes. Rei bluntly answered. You won't show how much, will you? The Mizukage stated. No. Rei nodded. The ANBU in the room were staring at the boy talking so bluntly to the Mizukage, but they saw the Mizukage was serious and was nodding in approval at the boy's answer. Would you be inclined in teaching that chakra hiding technique? Say, for money. Maybe, women. The Mizukage was amused. The kids in front of him were interesting. Boasting of 3 chakra natures at the tender age of 10. Monsters. If what they say was true, then he just acquired 2 potential future S-rank shinobi. Even if not. The chakra hiding technique was invaluable. Even he could not feel their chakra. Granted, he was not using his chakra sensing actively, but his passive senses should be enough to tell him their general reserves. It was mind-boggling for him. No. Rei's smile turned sheepish. Sorry, but that is not possible. The Mizukage's eyes narrowed further. Why not? He threateningly asked. Ah, when I tried to teach it to Conan, we ended up connected for life. The Mizukage frowned. He didn't believe in their so-called connection. A guy dash. Just have a sensor-nin look at us, Mizukage-sama. The ANBU tensed. Interrupting Mizukage was not a good thing. But Rei saw that the man was too interested in him and Conan to do anything about it. Fine. I will look. Mizukage told them somewhat sullenly and activated his senses. He instantly blanched. What the fuck? He quietly swore to himself. What he saw was their chakras merging, intertwining, knitting together. It was as if there were 2 people sewn together in front of him. It was disturbing, to say the least. He had no idea what to think of it. You say you can't separate? He resignedly asked in the end. Oh, we can. Rei let Conan's hand go and the Mizukage could see their chakras disconnect. But not for long. The Mizukage slowly nodded. He had no idea what was going on, so he could not judge if the kid was telling the truth, but even disconnected, their chakra was a patchwork of the 2. Honestly, he found the sight quite distasteful. Not because of its appearance. It looked like their aura was made of 2 colors to him. 2 colors forcefully kneaded together in the most brutal way. He shuddered at the image of that happening to him. The Mizukage had no idea that what he saw was the result of nature energy forcing the chakras and souls to merge. It was erratic, chaotic even. But it had no bad effects on Conan or Rei. On the contrary, this provided them with a lot of benefits. It just didn't look prettiest in the senses of a chakra sensor. It didn't look like a human. That was what disturbed the Mizukage most. I suppose you will be marry in the future. Shit. I almost said breed. The Mizukage sweat dropped and was glad he had his hat on so he could cover his face. He would be a fool to not see the benefits of such a chakra hiding technique. They definitely had to produce offspring if it meant the technique would stay in the village. Yes. Conan nodded stoically. What are the chances of joining the clan creation act? The Mizukage carefully probed. He could force them, but that would be a fast track to create Nuknins. He tried to keep the force out of anything he could. But he would be damned if he didn't try to make a clan out of them. And for a clan they would need more members. The boy would have to get more wives. Ray was stumped at the Mizukage. The Mizukage smiled knowingly. He couldn't help but mentally scold himself. The boy was just a kid, yet he was talking about giving him a harem to produce kids. He almost snorted at himself as he felt stupid. Only if the woman is suitable. Conan took the reins, surprising the Mizukage. Thankfully he prevented himself from gaping. And the conditions? He decided to entertain the girl. Kunoichi, strong, beautiful, and most importantly, Ray must fall in love with her. The Mizukage was about to nod in approval when Ray decided that enough was enough. Oi. Stop trying to play a matchmaker for me. Ray swatted Conan's shoulder with a scowl. Mizukage-sama, forget what she just said. Ray turned to the third Mizukage. I will live here, and if a woman that I like is willing to join us, then why not? But that's only when I am older. Ray petulantly and very childishly burst out while wildly gesturing. Ray knew exactly who he would like to have in his harem from Narutoverse. But he wasn't about to woo a girl only because she was a canon character. He decided to first gauge the personality, and if he found it likable and they clicked, he would go for it. The third Mizukage smiled. He could work with that. He was Mizukage, and giving a few females a mission to woo the boy when he is older was of no consequence to him. Underhanded, maybe. But if the boy actually does sleep with them, then he would have no excuses. It's not like they would be ordered to genjutsu the shit out of him. Alas, that was still far away in the future. Okay, now, you said both of you are proficient in 3 chakra natures. The Mizukage was disbelieving of this fact, but when both of them took out 3 papers, making one wet by just a slight touch, the other crumbled into dust, and then Ray wrinkled the last paper whereas Conan shredded hers. Fuck, the following years will be indeed a pain. He resisted the urge to groan as he realized the amount of effort he would have to exert to make these kids feel at home in Kiri. 3 trained affinities at the age of 10. No, 3 insanely proficient affinities. He knew what the speed which they showed meant. They were already masters at this exercise and most likely had a way to train their chakra natures further. He would actually call bullshit. And thought they were spies, except, no idiot would let someone with such a potential do a spy work. And no idiot was ever made a Kage. No matter how the Raikage looked. Troublesome. He mentally whined. Mizukage was no fool. The kids either had to create their own clan or join already existing ones. Nobody would teach someone who was not family their every secret. A plan started forming in his head. A plan he decided to go with. A plan that will inevitably decide much of Ray's future during his stay in Kiri. This will be A-class secret from now on. He growled at his ANBU, who straightened up. You will be provided a middle-class flat, free of charge. There were a lot of empty flats since many died in the war. Your rank will be Genin, but you won't have a Jonin supervising you. We can't spare anyone for that. Mizukage was not about to put these 2 through the Genin test. If one of them died, the second would be most likely lost too. No, he would keep them in the village as much as possible, make them loyal, and then make sure they are strong enough before sending them on any mission. As for the instructor, the kids got this far by themselves. He was interested if they could improve further without one. Mizukage-sama, Ray nodded. We would like access to Genin and Academy student areas in the library then. We will teach ourselves. Sure. The Mizukage rubbed his forehead. You probably do not know Kawarimi, Henge, nor any regulations and things like that anyway. You will be given half-year to learn it. Then you will be tested on your knowledge of regulations and the basic jutsu. Ray nodded. That's all. If you have any problems, my secretary can relay it to me. And with that, they were ushered out of the office. Alas, Ray didn't care what schemes the old man had. He would go through it at his own pace, and if not, there was always defection. Being hunted cannot be worse than living in the middle of a war zone, could it? Especially since he knew what will happen to Kiri in the future. Ray and Conan were shown their apartment. It was quite big with 2 bedrooms, a kitchen, a living room, and a toilet. It was obvious that the Mizukage really saw potential in them, otherwise they would never get such good accommodation for free. They even received a deed to the flat. Alas, the most important thing for Ray was not the flat but the slip that would allow him into the library. He could access Academy, Genin, and Chunin rank material. Yet another show of trust. He was glad about that. This would push them forward quite a lot. The first month in Kiri. Conan and Rei spent the time looking over Kawarimi and Henge and tweaking it. The Kawarimi was nice. Just reach with your chakra and swap. Alas, the mass had to be somewhat similar to yours for it to work. That's why logs. God, the shinobi were dunces. Rei opted to learn Mizu Bunshin and use them for swapping. Especially one with at least 5 exploding tags on them that would go off during swap. Why destroy nature by chopping logs when you can just gather water into a clone? One of these days, the Lord of Logs would punish the insolent mortals by making them logged instead of the log. Using the water clone had many advantages. Not only was he basically quickly transporting water towards his enemy. Water that could be used since he was good at Suetun. But really, these clones do not relay memories and are only 1/10 as strong as the original. Making them go all suicidal by bombing the enemy is a completely valid move. The same goes for playing Shikaku only, instead of sand, using water. All it would need was a horde of Mizu Bunshin surrounding the target and dissolving back into a water source for Rei. As for Henge, he really didn't see the use against anything other than civilians. Oh, he knew why it was mandatory jutsu. It was a go-to tool for infiltration. There was nothing better than that to fool civilians. And to be honest, during missions, fooling civilians is quite a prevalent activity. Henge had various uses. None of them useful in a battle since an attentive enemy and puff, ya dead. But when it came to performing missions. Bandits come. Henge 30 clones, bandits run. Need to seduce a man. Kunoichi puts a henge of gorgeous courtesan and done. Need info from a merchant. Henge into his friend and bam, done. It was one of the most useful things ninjas ever learned, but it was utterly useless in battle. Genjutsu could have lasting effects on the affected. These effects could be discovered. It was much better to just use Henge when dealing with civilians. Conan also learned Kawarimi and Henge. Especially Kawarimi since she saw the merit of Rei's idea. She saw a cloning technique for the first time when she opened the Bunshin scroll. A day after that, she was already able to form paper clones. Oh. Conan also liked having a blast with her clones. Literally at that. She even made Rei teach her these seals in English. She didn't know any English other than the words and numbers needed to make the storage seals, stasis seals, and exploding tags, but for her, it was enough. She definitely made it into a deadly weapon. Rei could only bitterly smile. He knew making these 3 kinds of seals was the limit for Conan. Teaching her just that took an incredible amount of time, and these were very elementary seals. She just didn't have the mentality for seals. Except exploding tags. That she could do. She was already devising her own exploding tags. Conan, in her sadistic streak, mixed clones with the storage seals filled to the brim with her futon paper shurikens. Then made a paper clone made purely out of exploding tags and then whatever mix of the two. Not one of her paper clones lacked at least one exploding tag inside. The best part? Her paper clones could actually draw seals. Rei used this insight and tweaked water clone technique to be able to do the same. Since then 2 Conans are drawing exploding tags, storage seals, and stasis scrolls out of real Conan's paper supply, and 5 Reis who were trying to come up with new more advanced seals. The second bedroom of their flat finally saw some use. The 2nd and 3rd months. Rei also found a lot of Fuinjutsu theory in the library. Nothing extraordinary but enough to push his knowledge forward. But he didn't dare to borrow these books and instead studied them in the corner, trying to be unassuming. He didn't want to tick off anyone that he could make seals. It was a slow process, as even if the knowledge was the basics of sealing at most, he was able to find some neat Uzumaki scrolls. This signified that Kiri indeed acquired some scrolls for Yuzu. Rei was mostly interested in Uzumaki battle Fuinjutsu, but he only got an inkling. He would need a pass to Jonin library if he wanted more. Conan. The more paper clones she made, the more her body became familiar with the prospect of pulling paper together to make a body. She unlocked her Logia powers and became a paper human. Well, in reality, she just learned how to make her body into paper and how to reverse it. But with the chakra control boost she got by connecting with Rei. With focus, she could do something similar like Logia users in One Piece. She, however, had to prevent herself from being hit. But changing the middle of her stomach to paper and make it move out of the strike mid-fight? That was a nasty thing. Or changing herself into a flurry of paper and reforming elsewhere. Or making her torso disappear when she was about to be bisected. Rei was so annoyed he devised a seal that would prevent her to use it by slightly messing up her chakra control. Nope. No one will pull crocodile on Rei. The last 3 months. Conan's body-changing technique stopped being overpowered the second Rei learned how to mold Suetun chakra into jutsu. Apparently, her paper can soak up water, but it cannot soak up water made with Suetun jutsu unless her water chakra is more concentrated in it. Sucks to be her since Rei was the better one at Suiton from the two. Rei focused on making his own Suiton jutsu rather than learning the jutsu in the library. He learned only a few he found really useful. Konan on the other hand tried to make her futon chakra sharper by molding it in a similar way as some futon jutsu did. Both learned consciously molding chakra for the monkey hand seal, to make Kirigakure no Jutsu sealless as their nature sensing gave them a clear view inside the mist. They both also managed to mold their chakra in the way of dog hand seal. As this one was associated with water and most Suiton Jutsu needed it. It also helped that their Mokuton practice made it incredibly easy to learn it. As for the snake hand seal, they already knew it. It was the only molding of chakra they learned without a hand sign in aim because it was mostly associated with earth and wood. They had tons of wood creation under their belt and molding their chakra in the way this hand sign did was nothing hard for them. Konan focused on the bird hand sign next, for better futon, while Rei started with the tiger hand sign, which went incredibly well as not only katan, it was also used for doton. But it would be months until both of them learn how to do these properly. Alas, they never learned jutsu for that reason. They refused to learn hand signs. They knew that once they fix it in their brain that they need hand signs and learn to instinctively mold chakra according to them, it would be hard to unlearn it. No matter how big of a crutch they were. Rei could compare them to a wand for wizards in Potterverse. It was easy to learn them and their bodies got quickly used to them. But it was insanely hard to start molding the chakra consciously on your own once you did get used to them. It was better to choose the harder route. Their last week was spent reading various regulations to pass the test. When you are in the library full of jutsu, you have no time to read these things. The test was in front of the council of the village. Apparently, they have those here but it is really only advisory. Alas, the Mizukage deemed it fit to fulfill their desire to see kids with 3 chakra natures do the test. The first, written test was easy as their enhanced minds had a hold on the knowledge after reading the books and they passed. Then they were tasked to show Kawarimi and swapped with each other. Konan swapped with Rei first and then Rei did with Konan to end up in their starting position. The council was quite astonished as it was advanced to be able to swap with other humans. As for clones, they showed water and paper clones respectively which instantly caused murmuring and promises of training their clan prodigies more. And so, at the tender age of 11, both Konan and Rei earned their Genin rank. The test was not over though. They relocated to the training ground covered by a thin mist. A spar with a Jonin was scheduled as the council and the Mizukage wanted to gauge Rei's and Konan's strength. The Mizukage picked one of the 7 swordsmen to gauge Rei and Konan. Rei was inwardly cursing the petty man to hell. Konan only looked at her dark bluish nails while giggling. Since Rei complimented it yesterday, she vowed to never use other colors. Come at me whenever. A large man, holding Kubikuribocho, smirked at them. It was 2 versus him and the man didn't feel like losing to 2 kids. Rei nudged Konan and nodded in the direction of the large man, Maduro, making her pay attention. She raised her eyes to the swordsman and scowled fiercely. She was almost past the date about to get into bed with Rei in her daydream. Maduro took the monkey position. Kirigakure no Jutsu. He was a typical wielder of Kubikuribocho. Silent assassin of the mist. The third Mizukage watched the relaxed figures of Konan and Rei. What made him frown though was not their careless posture. It was the sealless Kirigakure no Jutsu they both employed, making the mist so dense, seeing even an inch was a problem. It was definitely a complete overkill as normal Kirigakure no Jutsu provides at least some limited visibility. But this? Even Hyuga would be as blind as mole. He could see the council members asking those with chakra sensing abilities to tell them what's going on but, the Mizukage knew that out of the sensors present, only him and Himino Yuki were able to see, or rather sense what was going on in such thick, chakra-heavy mist. His plan for being a matchmaker for Rei and one orphan from one extinct clan was becoming even more important in his mind as he saw the mist. I wonder. How will they fight the master of silent assassination? They surely won't be able to see even an in-dash. His mind froze. Fuck. These kids must be sensors too. Why the fuck did I not think about that? Hiding chakra and sensing on the level where they can perceive things in such a mist. Damn, jackpot. Ha, see that Inoki. My village is still better. The third Mizukage wanted to jump from happiness at the realization. Mizukage-sama. Himino Yuki, the ever-loving cutie, worriedly glanced at him. He was aware she was miffed with him for having the kids fight with Maduro. Sigh, women. Ah, Himino-chi. He nodded to his childhood friend and his mind reacted the same as ever, he ducked under her punch. Wow, busty. Maybe I really should return dash. No. Bad boy. Stop ogling her, damn it. You have 2 prodigies fighting a skilled killer. Focus. Are you Phi Dash? A man asked worriedly. Yes. The Mizukage straightened. The Mizukage suddenly went rigid. He felt, tens, hundreds even, of chakra signatures in the mist. Clones, neat. That might work on someone with less experience. He praised mentally. But he was still able to sense which ones were real as they had more chakra. Until. Shit. Did they just lower their chakra signature to be on the level of their clones? Damn. I wouldn't want to face these two when they gain really lethal techniques. He sweat dropped. He could not differentiate between clones and the originals anymore. He could only differentiate between the clones of Conan and Rei as Conan's clones packed a slightly more chakra. What he didn't know was that as Rei and Conan mixed into the swirl of the chakra signatures, they did not only lower their signature. They completely covered it with nature energy, making it utterly invisible as they retreated. They were no longer in the mist. In the mist, Maduro focused his hearing as he could hear hundreds of sounds. He was used to seeing white. A thicker mist, that didn't bother him at all. Oh, clever. Making clones. I should praise them later. Now, let's kill these pests one by one. Sigh. I just hope I won't kill the originals. Mizukage would be pissed. Did you really think this would stop me? You are naive. Maduro's voice resounded through the mist. He swiftly set on killing the clones, one by one. The Mizukage felt the biggest chakra signature, Maduro on the move. He sensed him approach the closest clones, one of Rei's. Well, Maduro is too experienced to freak out from being surrounded by clones. But nice tr dash. As the Mizukage felt Maduro's blade approach the head of the clone, a loud boom resounded through the clearing, and Maduro's body was flung backward like a rag doll due to the explosion. Mizukage's and Himeno's jaw dropped. This, are they all? Himeno asked wide-eyed as she looked at the Mizukage. He knew Maduro was fine, but his body was uncontrollably flying in the direction of another chakra signature. This time it was one of Conan's. The Mizukage could feel Maduro twist in the air and aim a slash at the girl when. Boom. An even louder boom reverberated through the clearing, making Mizukage wince. The kids were using Maduro's sense of hearing against him. He could sense Maduro's body being yet again flung away as the explosion impacted him. I think, that answers it, Himeno-chan. The Mizukage answered as his eyebrow twitched. Fuck. Since when was this life and death battle? To bring hundreds of exploding tags. Crazy bastards. He inwardly cursed. In the mist, Maduro was mad. Only his Doton, rock body saved him from injuries. He kicked towards the ground mid-flight, sending his body uncontrollably stumbling across the ground. He rolled to his feet and tried to focus his hearing when he heard loud whistling sounds. His eyes widened and he barely managed to duck. The Mizukage facepalmed as Himeno cheerfully explained what was happening in the dense mist. Maduro is evading. Evading tens of futon-enhanced things looking like shurikens. He just bought it into the leg. Ouk. His arm. Oh, that was close to the crotch. He almost lost a chance at daddyhood. Damn, lucky him for having that rock body technique or he would be a Swiss cheese without it. Finally. He started to block the projectiles with his blade. Dunce, I tell you. The Mizukage almost face-faulted. He could only groan in exasperation. Two 11-year-olds were totally wrecking one of the 7 swordsmen in his own home field, using his own senses against him. Maduro was panting. His leg was useless and one of his hands was injured too. His body looked like one of his training dummies. Fucking cut up. He gained control over his breathing as he killed another clone by kicking it away as it was about to explode. He quickly shielded with his Kubikuribocho. But the clone of the boy didn't explode. It changed to water, making him confused. He stopped for a moment and instantly cursed himself for that when through the water the clone dissolved too. Suddenly a water jet shot at him at insane speeds from the mist behind it. He barely managed to duck but his sword. The Kubikuribocho. Himeno exclaimed suddenly. What, Lady Yuki? One of the clan heads asked impatiently. It kinda broke. Himeno tilted her head. The Mizukage's eyebrow was twitching. A strongly pressurized water jet, gathered from the mist itself, cleaved through the Kubikuribocho like a knife through butter while someone focused on strengthening the mist, ensuring it won't lose density. Their teamwork was seamless, Mizukage happily noted. That's when his eyes widened. He could see all chakra signatures stop and start running in the direction of Maduro's injured body. Maduro was gaping at his SWO- at the half of his sword he held in his hand when suddenly he heard sounds of multiple footsteps closing in on him. He quickly. As the clones were close to Maduro, the Mizukage and Himeno widened their head and quickly started weaving hand seals. Suetun, water wall. Hayaton, freezing. Third Mizukage created a wall of water and Himino quickly froze it solid as both could feel all clones explode. Even though the wall, they could still feel the whiplash of the wind as it sailed around its sides, sending their hair flailing from side to side. The shockwaves were hitting the ice wall as it trembled under the pressure while Mizukage and his council had to brace themselves as a small earthquake shook the ground. The mist long ago dispersed due to the wind created by the explosion. Mad kids. The Mizukage's mind trailed off as he had to remove a strand of his hair from his face since the wind messed up his hairdo and his face was full of hair that should be on the other side of his head. He heaved a sigh of relief when he sensed Maduro still alive. Maduro barely managed to use Doton, Iron Rock Dome. His strongest omnidirectional defensive jutsu and used Doton, Iron Rock Body to harden his skin to weather the raging concentrated explosions of over 100 clones. As the after effects ceased, the Mizukage and the council could only see Maduro flop on his knees and slowly fall down face first into the ground, unconscious. The gaping audience was interrupted as a bitter-looking Mizukage who didn't know if he should jump from joy or facepalm at one of his strongest Jonin being bested by 2 Genins. So, did we pass? Rei's cheerful voice sounded from behind them. Do you even need to ask, twerp? The Mizukage thought, completely fed up.